Hey everybody, this is Randy with Carchaeology, and today I've got a little project. I'm going to call it more of an arts project than anything else. I've got this 1960 Land Rover that's been used and abused during its life. It's been painted a couple times. Originally it was green, looks like it was painted white, and then maybe touched up again with some more white. And it's kind of worn out, kind of cool, but not quite as cool as a solid color would be. So I went to Home Depot, color matched the color. I've got some paint, I've got some brushes, I've got some rollers, and I'm going to attack this car with a budget in mind and see if I can transform it into something super cool. So a little better view of the Rover here. You can see it's a little splotchy. There's some green on the hood. The fenders are a slightly different white than the rest of it, as well as the top. It looks like it's a bit of house paint that's on it. I made an attempt to start to remove that house paint here by scraping it off, and that's a really long and tedious process that I don't really think is going to give me the solid look that I want. Plus, there's been a couple pieces that have been replaced on this car, such as the bulkhead. When this truck was converted from right-hand drive to left-hand drive, they used a bulkhead out of a slightly newer model. So it's a bit of a patchwork, but I want to give it a real cohesive, artistic, worn patina look, something that's in line with what a Land Rover should look like. And I went to Home Depot here to get some basic supplies. So I matched a color here as close as I could. This one's called Lottery Winnings. I don't think I'm going to get that rich off of this one, but it'll be a fun project, and it's a good color to start with. Here's the original color here. I've got a basic chip brush, a foam roller, some masking tape, and I've also got some water to kind of thin that paint down. And let's see what I can come up with here. It's all an experiment, but I think and I hope it's going to work out to be something very cool. So let's get this paint can open here and see what we've got here color-wise. See how close we are. Now I went with something that was pretty close. I brought in a part of the car to compare it. It was a little hard because when you rub on original paint, something that's got a little fade to it, obviously you bring some of the color back. So you can see the green on here. If I get my finger wet and give a little rub here, now we're getting pretty close. Looks like it's maybe a little light, but this color will dry a bit darker. So I think I'm on the right path. But I don't want to just lay this on in full tilt. I've got to thin it down a little bit because I want some of that patina that's underneath it and some of the variation in the finish to show through. So I'm going to pour a bit of this off into the tray. That ought to be enough to start with. And I'm going to thin it down with a little bit of water here as well. I don't want to go too thin because then it's going to run off and it's going to make a bigger mess. I'm kind of winging it here. We'll see how this works. Let's mix it up pretty good there. I just spilled a little bit on there. That might be just about right. So I'm going to do a little test spot here. If it ends up sucking, well, then I can fix it. Let's lay that paint on there. Now that's laying on pretty good here. I can even go over all of this. Now granted, I'm not restoring this car. I'm just having some fun with it and trying to give it a good rugged look. So let's get some of that color on there. A little white coming through. That's probably good for our little test pattern. The roller picks up a little bit, gives you a little bit of a texture there. And then we can play around with a rag to get it off a little bit in spots. Now, I definitely have some more work here to make that look legit. Plus, I think a little natural dirt and sunlight is going to help age it as well. But that's a good step one, a good start, and we'll continue to work on this and see where we end up. So I'm starting to get a little bit of color here onto the side of it. I'm not putting it on too heavy, but I'm trying to give it a fairly even look. Now you don't want it to look too even because things don't really wear that way. And another way you can add a little legitimacy to the patina or faux-tina that you're working on is if there's a natural bit of damage on the car, you can leave that rather than covering it over. So if this was a dent, which it is, there wouldn't be fresh paint on the area that's underneath it. Fortunately here on this car, these are aluminum bodies, so you can leave some of that stuff bare and it's not going to create some problems for you. So what I'm going to do is carefully get in here and get close to that damaged area, but not cover it over. So we can get the paint there, but still leave some bare aluminum in those areas. I might get in with a little bit better brush than this chip brush here, but I'm just trying to make a little action on here, and the devil's in the details, as they say. So I'll come back in and really age these things down so that they look a little bit more legit. But always try to keep some natural features or some of the natural wear that's on what you're dealing with. Rust that kind of works its way through can be great. Any dings or scratches or big dents or whatever, just leave them alone. Don't try to cover them up. So I've got the first coat of paint on here now. I've gone over it just a little bit with a couple more passes in spots with brush and the light roller. Just trying to give it some color, bring some of that soul back. And so far it's looking pretty good. The devil's in the details when it comes to these jobs though, so it's really important not to get any sort of brush over on the pieces that shouldn't be painted. Like that's a prime spot there. I need to take care of that before it dries, or be very careful to chip it off of there once it has. Same thing with rubber. Glass is easy because you can just scrape that off with a razor blade. But for the most part, you can see I left some of the original patina and damage on there. I tried not to go too deeply into the hinges and things. I want to leave a little bit of rust color in there that I can bring back out a little further. But you can see the transformation is already underway. And the truck looks so much cooler just as it is right now. There's a lot more to go, but I think this is a good stopping point. I'm going to grab a little lunch and then come back out and do some more. Now back from lunch and looking back at the project here. I did go in and jab a little of the green paint onto the grill here because that was a different color and was looking way out of place. Now it's blending in a whole lot more. Now, an interesting thing with this particular model is it is a 1960 that would originally have the narrow headlights, but at some point when they did the right-hand drive to left-hand drive conversion, they also swapped the front fenders and put the later model ones out here with the headlights here. Now, what I plan to do is to convert that back to just the narrow eye look. Now, these are just off-road lights that are tucked in here, but I can take these headlight units here and some rings that I picked up off of eBay and put the headlights back where they belong. I've got the grill here as well for it. The emblem holds it in place. But once that's up there, that's going to look so much better and so much more original. And for the headlights here, what I'm probably going to do is get a piece of aluminum that I can block off this whole area with. I may extend it up to here and tuck the edge in here and try to form that around there. I'll paint it so that it matches, and I'll camouflage it a little bit with some accessories. I picked up a really nice British license plate that I can put on one side. I might find something else over there. I also have a winch for the car that I'm going to fit into the front bumper here as well. So once the front end is all dressed up, it'll look very much period correct, even though the fenders are not right, and it is a bit of a mix-match bunch of stuff. Again, I'm not restoring the car. I'm just trying to modify it and have a little fun with it. And give it a real unique and fun look. Coming back out after that paint has dried, I'm really pleased with the way this thing is looking so far. And this is a perfect Sunday afternoon project for me. I'm having a blast. So anyway, I'm going to go in and do a little more aging. I'm going to lay some paint on the other side as well. And then we'll see how we get by the end of the day or by the time I tuck her out. So now I'm going to work my way around the back of the Land Rover. I've gotten this side here pretty good, and I want to come around the back. Now most of this is fairly easy to access. There's a spot where somebody spilled some black paint or something on here. I'm not going to stress it. Again, I'm just having fun. I'm not trying to restore anything. If somebody wants to restore this down the line, everything's got to come off of it anyway. So I'm just adding another layer, having a little fun. But details are important, as I've mentioned before. So stuff like this license plate light, I pulled the screw out of that so we can get that off. I'll probably even mask off that rubber so it's nice and clean. I may get in here and do some masking as well before I lay the paint on. But we'll put a little color on this and we'll see how it goes. So I've mixed up another batch here. I've poured in a little bit of my paint, a little bit of water. So I've got, a nice kind of soupy bunch of stuff. It's a warm day today, so stuff is drying quickly. But still, I've got to be very careful of runs because runs are going to destroy the whole look. Now you can see it's original paint in here, so when it's all together, it'll end up matching really nice. And I may come in and do a little cleanup like I've done with that to get it to match a little better. I'll also show some blending techniques for areas where it's still original paint on the outside and I want to get the new colors to kind of blend and still keep some original patina on it. But let's grab the brush here, start laying on a little color. Again, I'm not going crazy with cleaning, I'm not going crazy with prep. The faster this ages and starts looking cruddy, the more original and proper it's going to look. And again, it's all about fun. Restoration is another game that obviously requires an awful lot more prep. So I'm going to continue on with this and I'll show you the finished product here, or at least what it looks like with that next coat in just a minute. So I've got the back of the rig painted with a decent coat. Tried to keep off of all of the galvanized parts there and off of the glass and that sort of thing. If I step back, the truck's already looking significantly better just with some color on it. Now again, this is really just a first coat. I'm going to go back in and attend to some details as we get up closer. To give you an idea as to before and after here, let me come around this side into the sun. You can see what it looks like all in white. Now this next little bit, I'm going to go down this side here and paint it, and that's going to be a big difference there, and we'll really be able to see it in the sun. Well, obviously this side, when I get it in the sun, I may see some areas that I've missed, but overall I'm really enjoying the effort and the transformation here. The truck is looking pretty good, and that's original paint up on the top of the hood and top of the fenders, and I'm going to blend that in a little bit, do a little sanding as well, just so everything kind of works itself in. So now I've got the good first coat of paint all the way around. Again, that's still original paint on the hood and tops of the fenders, and I'm going to blend that in and do some aging to the sides as well to try to make everything as cohesive as possible. There's a few areas where there were some chips and scratches here that I chose to leave. I'm not sure if you can see that. There we go, that's a spot. I'll come in and detail some of those spots. Some other areas where there's a little bit of a scratch, and I may come in with a small brush and kind of paint those to accentuate those and make them look like they've been there forever. Here's another good scrape down here. I decided to leave that as well. And I've got a couple spots where I got just a little brush over, and I will come in and clean that stuff up as well. But it's getting a little toasty out here in the sun. I'm going to give myself another little break, and I might come out this evening, take a look at it, and see what I can do. Now the fun part with the sandpaper and areas that you painted where there's rust or rough spots is if you're very careful about it, you can bring that patina back up through the existing paint. You can see I've started to do that here, on this hinge and get it a little bit wet so things move a little smoother. And if you just carefully rub the high spots, you can bring out some of that original patina and make it look like it's been here for a long time. And the more you go at it, the more you bring back out. Now, it's easy to go too far as well. The whole idea is to try to get this painted piece to kind of match some of the original patina that remains on the car. And that's just a matter of finesse and skill, and you just kind of play with it. But the more you do, the better it looks. And it's really kind of a fun, artistic process. I really enjoy it. You know, here's a spot where there was something rough on the surface of the paint, and I just went right over it. Then as you lightly sand it, and then wash it off, you can see some of that black coming back through. And all of that helps it look significantly more convincing than if it was a solid color. You can see here on this side here, that's repainted, and that's original paint. Not bad for a $10 can of paint from Home Depot in an afternoon of playing around. Stuff's fun. Well, I think I've done enough for today. I've gone around the whole truck. I've applied color on all the panels that were white. I've done some cleaning and color sanding and blending. And already it is looking like a completely different machine. Now, obviously, this isn't a restoration. It's a bit of faux-tina, and it's a bit of returning it to what it should look like if it was all original color. And the one thing that's great with an old Land Rover is even when they're beat up, they look fantastic. And you know, that's kind of the fun. Do I want to restore this truck and make it perfect? It just doesn't make financial sense to do so, especially when it's really designed to go beat up and flog around in the hills. So here's my transformation, my Sunday afternoon of messing around. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a little something. And don't be afraid to play with your cars, people. Get out there, do something fun. You know, use a spray can, use a roller, do whatever you need to do. Just know that whatever you do, somebody might have to undo later on. So you don't want to take a nice car and mess it up, but if you've got one that's already messed up, well, you're really not going to hurt it more by adding another layer of paint. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to the other Carchaeology videos. We're going to be posting a lot more in the months to come.